Hey guys, welcome to the RoundTable. Here at the RoundTable, we continue the conversations that we have had from Sunday morning and how you can have practical ways to help every person take their next steps towards Jesus together. Hey guys, welcome to episode 64 of the RoundTable. I'm Jenny Walker, the social media ministry leader here at Life, and this is our lead pastor, Mike Hill.
That's awesome. I don't even have to introduce
I know.
myself.
I already
Let's
decided.
keep doing that way.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I like that.
And this is our special guest, Dee Wigner. Did I say that right?
Wigner.
Wigner.
Say it one more time the way you said it the first
Wigner.
time.
That does sound really, really bad. Wigner, I like that better.
Yes, I was waiting. As soon as you got the wing, I was like,
You knew it was coming out.
It ain't coming out right. It ain't coming out right.
Well, I always mispronounce somebody's name.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'm going to introduce a little bit of the roundtable for our first time guests because you might be here thinking, what are these people doing? What we used to do, we used to sit around and that was our whole thing. We would talk about Sunday morning and we'd bring it in practical ways on what to do with it. But we've evolved to now we have guests. So we have a guest each time and we learn your story and how that fits in with God. And we do this because our stories encourage people. It shows off God's glory and you know, you never know who you can help and what somebody else is struggling with. And we think stories are super powerful.
Absolutely.
So, and we heard that, or I heard that yours is super powerful and I can't wait to hear it.
Dee just has a long story.
I do.
I know.
Right? Like a long history. And it's not like I grew up in church and then fell away from the church and came back. And I mean, it's kind of an eventful,
I got
story.
lots of plot twists.
Yeah. So,
I love plot twists.
yeah, so why don't, to help our audience, like Jenny said, why don't you, because part of what we want to be able to do is kind of weave in your faith journey, but also with your life,
Yeah.
right? Like, so it's people get to know you, but at the same time, they also understand your faith journey. So can you talk to us a little bit about your faith journey and your life and, maybe what brought you closer to God and then maybe some of the stuff that, because I feel like maybe this isn't right, but I feel like a few of the circumstances that happened in life also rocked your perspective of God and what's he doing and why aren't these things happening? So I think or why are they happening? So I think it's good for people to, see that. So tell us a little bit about you and your journey.
So I was raised in a Christian home. My mom and dad were saved. Ooh, there's a fly.
I told you. There's something
you're
like there must be
telling.
dead animals
Yes.
or something in
Must
this
be.
back corner because
It's
there's
my water
flies
cup.
and spiders. Yeah.
But I was raised in a Christian home, and I got saved when I was 8 years old. I remember distinctly getting saved on my mom's bed, but I didn't really take on that faith of my own. And you've mentioned that before, that it's not something that mom and dad can pray for and make you have. It's got to be something that you have. So even though I was raised in a Christian home, I didn't really build my faith really with God growing up. So it just kind of like, it was just handed to me and it's what we did on Sunday and that was it. As I got older though, there was, lots of life choices and that kind of thing, lots of peer pressure and that kind of thing, things I strayed away from, but things that I fell into and that kind of thing. And so I had my daughter at 19. I was with my boyfriend at the time, and then our relationship broke up when she was 1. So that was rock number one that really got me because I was always raised in a family that was always together.
Yeah.
So that was brand new to me. I didn't know what that road looked like. And that was one thing I was really upset about because I was like, I was doing everything right, wasn't I? I was raised in a Christian home and things should be going, how I was taught, you do the right thing and everything's going to be fine, right?
So I forget this part of your story. Were you homeschooled? Did you go to school? I can't remember which one it was.
Homeschooled, and then I got pulled out. We did online stuff, and then I did through Huntington University. I was able to do like the extracurricular stuff. So I was doing high school and college at the same time, and so.
So how'd you meet your boyfriend?
So I met him through the high school. And then we had friends through where I used to work. So my first job was the Heritage of Huntington as a dietary aide.
Yep.
So, and I absolutely loved that. So I met him and we were together for quite a while. And then we moved in together. I know that broke my mom and dad's heart.
I was about to say, how was their opinions on
that,
this?
That was rough. And so that was one of the times, where, I was like, I'm going to make my own decision and that kind of thing. And so
Well, in that, I mean, again, not like we're not trying to take each point like people learn from it. So you grew up in, and I'm going to put words in your mouth so they could be not true, but in a pretty strict religious upbringing. Like the church that you went to was very rules oriented, like follow the rules, do it a certain way. And if you didn't,
or else.
Yeah, there was like, say punishment.
Or
but
else.
it really was, I don't remember all of the stories, but it was like, if you don't do, like, there are consequences, for the things that you do. And not just like, there'll be consequences someday. Like, we're going to put consequences
Now.
now for the things that you're doing. So you grew up in a very rules-based faith. And so then when you got to this place where, okay, I have to make a decision, like, I know what my parents believe and I know my church. And then you came to a place where you're saying, because I'm assuming at the time you're saying, I know nobody's going to agree with this, but I'm going to move in with them, right? So what was it? Rebellion? Was it, I just want to make my own choices because people have made choices for me for all of my life. And so, and the reason I'm bringing it up is I think sometimes we need to learn as parents that it's not the greatest thing to just keep rules in the lives of our children, because rules usually create rebellion.
Yeah.
Right. And people want a freedom from it. So
Yeah, they do.
Which one was it for you, do you think?
I think it was a freedom thing because it was so rigid. The, church life was so rigid, and, my parents just wanted the best for us. And so
for sure.
they were following in, the leadership that they were under, of, well, you've got to do this, 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 and this, so there wasn't much freedom. So you could make even small choices, of going good or bad,
Right.
So then when we got to the age of making big life decisions, it was a do or die, because we never got the chance really to learn, hey, mistakes do happen. You got to learn from that, and that God still loves you when you make mistakes, you got to learn through that. But that was just a do or die situation, and so it was like, I want that freedom, because every kid does, they want that, and they think, at least for me, it was my mom and dad's religion, and so if it's good for them, it's good for me. And so no matter what I do, I'll be okay.
Right.
No bad will come to me, because I'm saved.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so at this point, when you meet the guy at the Heritage, you guys decide to move in church, out of church. I mean,
yeah, he.
Were you going to? You know what I mean? So you're 19.
Yeah. So my sister and brother-in-law, they started coming here, and I began coming here around 16, 17, because I was in the youth program under Hillary.
Whoa.
When Hillary was here. So
wow, I kind of forgot that part.
Yeah,
I didn't know you were that young.
Yeah. And then like we've always known the littles because my mom
doesn't
and dad.
everybody?
Right? Yeah. They're amazing.
Always
people.
know the littles because doesn't everybody?
Yeah. And so my mom and dad went to church with Tammy's mom. And so growing up, Nelson and Talitha would come to church with. So I've known them since like itty bitty.
Right.
And so when I started coming here with my sister in the youth program and all the littles were here, I just was like, oh, this is awesome. Because there was a, familiar face.
Okay. So then again, you were coming to life, but then once that happened, did you keep coming?
Stopped. Nope.
Okay.
So then that's when everything stopped for me. I was in the youth program and that kind of thing. And then I just kept gradually just not coming to the point. Then when I got pregnant with my daughter, then it was just completely cut off from all relationship with church, God, everything. I was like, I'm invincible. I've got this. I'm young. I'm good. And then that's when life really started taking a nosedive.
Right. And
was there a reason for that you're like, just that thought process of, like, I don't need anybody? Did something happen, like, after you had your daughter? People didn't act a certain way?
People did, because being raised in that super strict,
Right.
it was you have to be married before you have children and that kind of thing, or you're going to hell or whatever
Yeah,
it
for
is. And
sure.
so, once I did have my daughter, things just changed. Everything changed, and so it was really hard to even, feel comfortable in any aspect of life.
Sure.
You just kind of felt shunned.
Right. So you got to go out and do your own thing.
So you got to go out and do
Right.
your, and
Yeah.
you got to make your own way.
Right.
The roads that were paved for me were not, to me, it seemed non-existent. So it's like, okay, I got to create my own roads now.
Right. And so at the time and again, you don't have to talk about this part. We're not like pulling scabs off or anything. But
absolutely.
when you met this guy, was he a believer? Was he on fire for God? Was he okay?
No. So he actually said, and when we had first met at work, and was doing school stuff and that kind of thing, he was coming to youth with his friend here. And so that was like, oh, that's cool. You're going to youth. So we did do youth, nights and that kind of thing. And he would come and that kind of thing. But then it was just gradually, it stopped and it fizzled out and that kind of thing. And so then, life just kept taking me and drawing me away,
Sure.
Until a place where I just no longer came.
Right. Right.
to
And
life.
so again, for people in this, there can have some effect. The person that you choose in life can have
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
an
For
effect
sure.
on, whether you are or aren't in church or whether or not you get to that place. And do you think, did that have anything to do with the demise of you guys' relationship? Whether him not being a believer, or was it just a plethora of other things?
I think it was a plethora of other things,
Okay.
but I think that for sure was because I always had that gut feeling, whatever you want to call it, the Holy Spirit, whatever, still trying to call you, that no, this isn't right.
Right.
You need to have a relationship with me and that kind of thing. And not being on the same road with your partner, it really does make a difference, because if you're not on the same road with them, then it just makes everything really rocky.
Right.
Yeah.
There's lots of speed bumps in a relationship when you don't have the same views and goals and that kind of thing.
Yeah. And so we always talk about in our podcasts of like, if you look at a person's journey, there tends to be these milestones that either push you closer or take you further away, and it's all choices of, how we handle it. So had Nevaeh, right? And then you guys were still together?
Yep. So we were still together. And then our first year was really rocky. And then we separated when she was 13 months old.
Okay.
So
did that move you closer, further away?
further away.
Okay.
Yeah. Because at that point I was just angry.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was working at the time. I was working at the Heritage still, and then I was working for Pathfinders, and decided that I no longer wanted to work there because the hours just didn't work and that kind of thing. And so my friend at the time was like, "Why don't you get a job with me working at the jail?" So I got a job at Wells County Sheriff's Department, becoming a confinement officer. So it got me more money. It got me the insurance benefits and things that I felt that I needed now being a single mom and trying to navigate what that even looked like, because nobody in my family, nobody had that. No
Right.
one was a single mom.
Right.
And so
Right.
there was always a support network. There was always mom and dad, So I had to figure that out on my own.
Did you still have them though? Were they
I did.
in? Okay,
Yeah.
that's good.
So they never did shun me. They
Okay.
just, I know that I broke their heart when I moved out and when I went off the rails, with the rebellion and the just being young, But when I contacted them, let them know, hey, I'm pregnant, and that kind of thing, it was just like no time had ever passed.
Good.
They just swooped me back up, loved me, and took Nevaeh right in and loved her. And
Right.
there was no gap.
Right. So how hard is it as a single mom? So to, again, try to figure out life, try to be able to go down this road. How difficult was it for you?
Oh, extremely difficult. Extremely
yeah, I
difficult.
can imagine.
Yeah, because everything was brand new. I didn't have any guides, so to speak.
Right.
There was nothing that I could be like, oh, I remember, hearing about this or whatever, because it was just so strict growing up that, you get married, you have your kid, you know,
Right,
it was just your point, you know. So being a single mom was very difficult and all the challenges, you know, and trying to split your time and how do you provide and give the attention and love and that kind of thing. And always feeling that split, you know.
And as Nevaeh grew up,
tension.
how hard was it? I mean, again, does she have a relationship with her biological father?
She does.
I don't remember what that was all
Yes.
like.
Yeah.
If was that
Yep.
good or
Yep. So
you
they
know?
live here in town. It's not been the greatest relationship.
Right.
She sees counselor for it. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, so that was one thing that I had been praying when all this happened, and there was like a turning point for me, especially when we had broke up. And, you know, I did walk away from the church and that kind of thing, but, you know, I still had that deep down, I know God still loves me, and I don't know how I'll ever be able to get back in your good graces again, but if you can just hear me, if you can just, you know, listen to my cry. But I didn't want that tension for Nevaeh, you know, because I felt a lot of that guilt. You know, I was like, this is all on me, you know. And so praying for Nevaeh to have a relationship that not only with her father, but to learn and know about God. And I'm like, how do I teach her that when I've walked away, you know, and I don't even have a relationship with him, you
Right.
know. It was always something that my mom and dad not necessarily pushed on us, but it was just like,
Yeah.
this is it. This is
This is
what
what
it
we're
is.
doing.
This what- yeah.
Right. This is what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
again, you are working, you have
Mhm.
Nevaeh, you're split.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of take us this next part of your journey, because at some point in this, you get hurt.
I do.
Which to me is another huge
Huge.
point in your
Yeah.
journey.
Yep. So I worked for the jail for 3 years, and it got to another turning point where they wanted me to work third shift by myself. And
By
it
yourself?
was yes. So it was
Ugh.
it was a both male and female. So jail. So, you know,
Yeah.
one officer, and, you know, at times there could be 40 people in a cell block. And
Yeah.
so if something went down 40 against 1, there's no chance. And
That's
so I
a
remember
terrible idea.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and so they're supposed to be locked down, you know, in their cells,
Right,
you know,
but-
at night. But, you know, that doesn't
doesn't
always
stop
happen.
anybody.
Yes,
Right.
exactly.
Right.
And so I remember sitting down with the sheriff and being like, I can't do this. Being a single mom, I have to go home at night, and I just can't do this. And so one thing led to another, and I was able to get into a job with the Department of Homeland Security. So that was about a 9-month process. I continued to still work at Wells County. But then once I got that job, I just transferred over into that position. So, and I was stationed at the Fort Wayne Airport. That's
Sounds
where I
so
was-
secretive.
Yeah.
The Department of Homeland Security.
Well,
Like, where
seriously.
do I apply?
Yes.
I wouldn't get a job. You know, that's so cool. Like, it feels like
I'm
you're like
sure
a.
they're hiring you.
I know.
You know.
Yeah.
They should though. They should hire a felon.
Yeah.
Just saying.
No. Yeah.
Yeah. So I got in there and worked there for, it was almost 2 years, and I ended up falling at work. So I fell and I hit my back and hip on a steel like post or whatever.
Ooh.
And so I couldn't feel my leg at all. And I had
Oh my
excruciating
gosh.
pain in my back, and I had to be wheeled out. And so I couldn't feel my leg at all. I couldn't put any pressure. I couldn't walk. I was completely wheelchair bound. And when I went to the doctor, they told me that if I didn't get surgery, that I'd be paralyzed for the rest of my life. And I wouldn't be able to feel anything. And that was scary to me because at the time I was mid-20s.
Yeah.
And I had a little one and still single mom and navigating all that life by myself. So that was a fear moment for me that I was like, oh, I have to get a surgery, you know? And so I got the surgery, and it was a failed surgery. I was able to get my feeling back in my legs, but they caused a CSF leak in my back.
What is that?
So it's the fluid that holds your head and your spine and
Okay.
all that keeps your brain floating.
Yeah.
So
And then it causes massive headaches. and-
massive headaches. And so whenever I would get up, so like you feel better when you're laying down.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
And then when you stand up, I was vomiting, I was passing out.
Oh wow.
It was excruciating. And I was having like pockets of actual fluid fill up in my back because it was just not it wasn't staying in the spinal column.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's amazing what your body actually does for you when it's working
Right.
at 100%,
right.
efficiency, and then when it's not, everything just goes downhill.
Yeah, and I think at this time is when Life Church was like,
Yeah.
hey, we got a prayer request in,
Yes.
from Dee, like this is what
Yep.
she's going to be going through. And so, I mean, and then it starts this journey of us praying for, trying to figure out how to support,
Yes.
of, I mean, I feel like it was, because again, I'll never forget, like I heard, hey, you're online, you're watching online all the time because you still can't get around very well to, she's going to become an online, pastor.
Yeah.
And then the next thing you know, I'm like, she's walking in the door. I'm like, what the world happened? I thought, and again, a lot of things had happened in my own life. So I kind of lost track of where she was.
Yeah.
Because Sherry used to go and visit her,
Yeah.
every once in a while. And then come back and be like, oh man, that's rough. And then the next thing you know, we go through our journey and then I see her walk in. I'm like,
That's amazing.
This is a miracle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
like
It
a
was
miracle.
huge. Yeah.
Wow.
And so anyway, so talk about that. Because again, my memory's kind of weird in that area, but like you weren't coming even at that point, but then you got hurt, and then somehow, whether it's through your mom or somehow Life Church got back involved in praying for. So how did that happen?
So that was the year of 2018. So 2018, early 2018, like January, February, you guys opened up a second service. And so I was able to come to church prior to going to work. And so that's when I was like, oh, this is great. I can start coming back and that kind of thing. And so I had a very short window of
you could come back to church again.
Yeah, I was on a mountain, where I just felt like, okay, God does love me and everything is working out and I'm able to get back into church because I couldn't come because work hours always conflicted. So I never could come. And so it was January, February that I was able to come. And then my golden retriever, who I had had since Nevaeh was one, had passed away suddenly. So she had kidney failure, had no clue at all. Like she was a trooper and didn't show any signs. And then it was just, boom, it happened. Sunday, she was not feeling well and she was vomiting and stuff. And then by Thursday, she had passed away. So it was just a boom, 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 boom thing. And so we had got Minnie when after me and my ex had split up. And so that was kind of like a
recovery dog.
recovery.
Yeah,
She was our
therapy.
therapy dog.
Yeah.
And so Nevaeh picked her out and we weren't even supposed to get her because she was the runt of the litter. And the lady that we bought her from was like, no, we don't sell the runts and that kind of thing. But Nevaeh was attached. Like she picked that dog up and carried her around. And I was like, I have to have this dog.
Yes,
so,
you do.
Yeah, it was like I was like pleading with the lady, like I have to have her. So that's how we got her. So when she passed away, it was just like super traumatic.
Right.
So then that happened in March and then I fell in June.
Wow.
So that was not my year.
Wow.
So I got Minnie ripped away from me and then my health essentially ripped away from me. And so when I had the surgery and they were able to get the feeling back in my legs, they totally screwed up the part of the fluid part, and then they just completely denied that there was ever an issue. They just thought that I just wanted more time off of work, and the doctors were just like, oh, you're just faking it, and that kind of thing. So
they denied their mistake.
Yeah, so I leaked for 18 weeks and was
Oh my gosh.
literally bedbound for 18 weeks. And finally, a family doctor's nurse practitioner is the one that was like, no, I don't think this is being made up in her mind. I think that there is something actually going on. So they finally ordered MRIs, and that's what showed that I had a large, rare CSF leak
Oh my
and that I needed
gosh.
repair. But the best part of it was that no one around here could fix it. So they're
course.
like, no one around here knows how to fix this. And so your only options are go down to Duke University in North Carolina, or go out to California at Cedars-Sinai in
Wow.
Los Angeles. So at the time, Duke was not taking any patients because they just had a hurricane. So couldn't go out there. So my only route was California. So then that's when my mom's like, we need to reach out to the church and pray over you and that kind of thing. And
Right.
so that's when you guys, prayed over me. I actually ended up going out to California by myself. I left Nevaeh in my mom and dad's care and was able to get a health flight. I don't know, I can't remember who it was, but it was some like nurses, whatever, and put me on a plane. That way I could lay down and that kind of thing. And they shipped me out there. And so at the time, they told me it was going to be 3 to 5 days I'd be out there, and that'd be it. And that they'd had all kind of success stories with this surgery, and it'd be totally fine, and I'd be back home within 3 to 5 days. And I ended up staying out there for 41 days. And
I was going to say, I feel like that didn't go the way it was supposed to. Yeah.
No.
You didn't like pack or anything for that.
Oh, no.
Oh, my gosh.
No. And at one point, I was literally stuck in the hospital. Like, they would not release me at all. Like, I was a prisoner inside that hospital. And so I ended up getting PTSD from it, which later on in my story, I dealt with that and that kind of thing. But it was through Facebook. I found a group page for, like, CSF leakers and that kind of thing because I didn't have only time that, I was stuck in a bed, so all I could do was be on my phone.
Yeah.
And so I found this group and found actually someone who was out there that had a similar story to me. And he was the one that was able to get me out of the hospital. He came and advocated for me. And with a CSF leak, it causes all kind of like instability and that kind of thing. So if you put a neck collar on and it supports your neck, then you feel like a ton better. And then caffeine helps, salt helps.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Caffeine.
I know. That's awesome.
Yeah, so I literally had a caffeine bag, which was amazing. I'm like, I can do that. Yes, I can do that.
Like shots of espresso?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, an IV? That sounds awesome.
Yes. Yeah. And so he was actually able to convince them and able to get me out. But it was a relationship that I had built with other people, one of them being Christy, who is now my boyfriend's mom. That's how I met her, was on that group page. And we just completely connected. She was literally a saving grace to me. She would call me and pray for me and was a huge support while I was in that darkness, because it was dark. I was completely alone. I felt that I was abandoned, crying out, God, why, I'm so sorry, and pleading with him, sorry I made the decisions I did in life, where are you?
Did you ever have that? Because a lot of people that grow up in a very religious home, tend to blame then all of the circumstances of life on God's punishment.
For sure. For sure.
God's punishing me for the way that or the things that I did.
Absolutely.
And, you feel this condemnation.
Absolutely.
So you did feel some of that.
I felt that. And I felt a lot of guilt, that I had let him down, and that all these bad things were happening, because, and it wasn't, I wasn't seeing the big picture.
Because that's what was told to you your whole life.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how many people have this? Like, how rare is it?
So they say it's rare, but it's really not rare.
People are just not talking about it?
They're just not talking about it.
Okay.
Yeah. And so when I went out there and I had the CSF leak and I had to have an additional surgery, so I had a total of 2 back surgeries.
Ugh.
Then that surgery failed. But on top of that, it caused all kind of issues inside my body. One being my autonomic nervous system, which basically controls everything inside of you that your body does automatically. It crashed. And so that's called dysautonomia. And so one of the things that I have is called POTS.
Yes, I've heard of that.
Yep. And so my heart rate goes stupid crazy when I stand up. And so if it wasn't for medication, I would be bedbound still.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so it's crazy, how your body and how God has made you with all the different parts that are supposed to work together. And when one thing fails, it is like a domino effect. Yeah. And so still trying to figure out if it is, all because of the accident or if it's something that I was born with, because a lot of it can be genetic as well.
Okay.
So one of the things, Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome, it's a connective tissue disorder that they are trying to figure out with me if I have it or not. And so when you're connective tissue, it's like basically the puzzle pieces that keep you together. It's like the sticky parts and that kind of thing. So trying to figure out, do I have that? Because with all the surgeries failing for me, it makes sense that it's not, it's a bigger issue than just falling at the work and that kind of thing.
The surgeries, you shouldn't be having this many
Yes.
failed surgeries.
Absolutely.
What are your doctors saying during this time?
So, out in California, because the ones here just completely blew me off.
Right,
There
right.
was no hope here. They were convinced that I was crazy. And then
That's ridiculous.
even though I am a little crazy now.
That's beside the point.
That's besides the point, yeah. But the ones out in California were we fixed it, it's not a problem, and so they were just adamant that I didn't have any issues, that it was all made up in my head, that when my autonomic nervous system crashed and my heart rate and my blood pressure, it was laying down in bed, my blood pressure was 70/30, and my heart rate was like in the 180s, and laying down. And they're like, "Oh, that's fine. That's normal."
Are you serious?
I'm like, "No, it's
This is
not."
why I don't go to the doctor.
Exactly.
Anybody want to know why I don't go to the doctor and I'm
Yeah.
a self-diagnosis?
I know. I think
Right
I'm
there
smarter
is a
sometimes.
perfect one.
Yes.
Yeah, I could give you
Yes.
surgery.
Hey, I got an Apple Watch. What
Yeah.
else do you need?
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's what
That's
I'm
what I'm
saying.
saying.
So it just, things were not lining up. So then that's what took me to the Facebook group page, and it was like a cry out for help, like, please tell me I'm not crazy. Like, this is not okay. Because I had experience in the past with EMT work and the Wells County Sheriff's Department, so I had dabbled in enough that I knew enough knowledge to know, like, hey, this is not
Something's
okay.
not right.
Yeah, I know I'm not a doctor, but
Right.
yeah. And so they were just adamant that I was crazy as well.
That
Yeah,
blows my mind.
So in that journey, so again, you're back to, and I'm assuming at this point, still, what's going on? Is this punishment? What was the breaking point, or what was the thing that was like where you see the light again? I don't know if that's the right word, but
Yeah.
in this journey, you're again, maybe has some highs and some lows, but probably at this point more of like, Lord, I love you, but why are you punishing me? And, probably more lows, not necessarily walking away from God, but just not at the place where you need to be. So what was that point where that shifted?
So where that shifted for me was that it was the alone time in the hospital, that I was always so busy with life, being a single mom and that kind of thing. I never really had me time. And so when God took me out to California and I was secluded in a hospital room, the only option I had was to listen.
Yeah.
And I'm a hard one to do that, 'cause like, oh, I got this,
He puts us in our place.
Yeah, absolutely.
You had to be that, like, sitting down and
I
forced
had
to stay there.
Yes, to be able to get my attention.
Exactly.
And the more that I listened, the more I heard him, and that is what brought me closer to him. And one of the things distinctly that I remember laying in the hospital bed was the Isaiah 41:10 verse, and to not be afraid, because I was so fearful. It's like, I can't leave Nevaeh behind, and all these things were racing through my mind, and and to have courage, that everything will work out. You're gonna see this. And so from not knowing anyone, from being completely by myself, then that's when, complete stranger came, because he lived in San Francisco, and so he actually drove down to Los Angeles and was able to get me out. Complete stranger. And to this day, I'm not in contact with him.
Really?
He helped me, and then
Like
it
an
was
angel.
and then he just went on his way, and there's just not been really much contact with him.
Wow.
But, I prayed, I was like, God, I don't know what this is going to look like, but he sent him, helped me get out. And then eventually I was able to get on a plane and come back home. And then that's really just what changed my view of, okay, this is not just mom and dad's religion. It's not, just something that someone prays for you. This is me and God's relationship. And, I have to work on this. It's not anyone else.
Right.
And so when I got home, the church just completely just wrapped me up. We had meals for, it seemed like forever. Jennifer was like, oh, we got meals. And I remember Sherry saying, oh, we got you. And it wasn't just for me and Nevaeh. It was for my mom and dad as well. Because they were helping as well. Because I was still wheelchair bound. And then I eventually went to a walker. And then it would just progress that way. But when I got home, I was wheelchair bound. And so I wasn't able to take care of things on my own.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were like, oh, we got you meals and that kind of thing. But they filled our freezer for literally months. And a God thing. You can't explain that any other way besides a God's thing.
Right.
Yeah. And so then, you you guys did the, online thing. And then, I was like, oh, I can do that, and then I remember Nick reaching out to me and saying, hey, would you like to be a campus pastor? And I was like, I have no clue what that is. Like, what?
Yeah, I remember you as the campus pastor.
Right.
Yeah.
During COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And so that was another thing that, a lot of people were going through as far as like being shut in and that kind of thing. And I had been living that life
Exactly.
for 2 years, that isolation and that kind of thing.
Yes.
So to be able to help people, see it's
what?
not necessarily a bad thing, that, this is time to, you can take, to build a relationship with God.
Be still.
Yeah, and be still.
Yeah, and so as that starts to shift, you start to get better. I mean, start to get better physically, but also spiritually. You're starting to grow. You're starting to, feel that again, and then you get a boyfriend.
Yes. So,
right? Because I feel like that was a pretty big step.
It was,
right?
yes. Yeah. And so when I had talked to Christy in the hospital, she was going through a lot of the same health issues as well. And so to help guide me and, let me know as far as like, don't take this crap from the medical doctors, you aren't crazy. And she helped guide me through that, even to the place where I got home. And so when I got home, it was right before Christmas of 2018. And then I remember talking to her, FaceTiming her, and she was sitting on her porch, and she was just telling me more about her life. And so she's got 3 kids, and Christopher's the oldest, and she was just talking him up and that kind of thing. And so then we became friends over Facebook in 2019, and it was just friends because he was in a really bad part in his life, and I was still really sick. So nothing really grew from that. We would like each other's posts, or we would, say hi or whatever, but nothing
Flirt
really.
on Facebook.
Flirt on Facebook.
Nothing like, crazy.
Yeah, just friends.
Put a couple
Just
hearts
friends.
out there.
Absolutely.
Yep,
Heart
I'm loving
emoji.
it.
Yes.
How perfect though that he understands like what you're going through because of his mom.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And so actually what brought us together back in 2021, and it shifted from just being friends to our relationship actually growing, was he posted on Facebook that he'd never been to the Cheesecake Factory.
What? The Cheesecake Factory did it?
The Cheesecake Factory. So I was like, Christopher, how have you never been to the Cheesecake Factory? And so
I
then
don't think I've been to the Cheesecake
You
Factory.
haven't?
What is
Oh
the
my
Cheesecake
God.
Factory?
What is the Cheesecake Factory? Oh,
Is
what's your
this
favorite
is this
cheesecake
in
there?
Indianapolis?
They're so good.
Red Velvet, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and they have them all over.
Carmel area, like the Newcastle Carmel area.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the funny part is, so there was a Cheesecake Factory from him about an hour and a half from where he lived, because he's born and raised in South Carolina.
Yeah.
So there was one just an hour and a half from him, but he ended up driving over 700 miles.
He drove
come-
to see you.
to come see me.
Yes.
To go to the Cheesecake Factory?
Yes.
No.
That's awesome.
To see you.
Yes.
What a great excuse.
And was it
Yes.
a date? Like, did you say it was a date, or you're just meeting up to go to the cheesecake because he's never been?
So he had made the plans to come up, and then
He's
it just
dating, man.
Well,
he
yeah.
was, because I had walls built up, like major walls.
Yeah.
I was just, with all my past and my health and that kind of thing, I had my walls high. And so he had always had feelings for me, but it just was never the right time, and that kind of thing. And so
But he kept pursuing.
and
See?
he was persistent. And we joke about that to this day, how persistent, because I am just very stubborn. I'm an Aquarius, so it's just, it comes with my
Pisces, Aquarius.
Yes,
I'm on the
yes,
cusp.
Yes. And his mom's a Pisces, so
Really? Oh, she's
so
awesome.
we always joke. He's like, I feel like I'm dating my mom.
Yeah.
Yes. So he originally had bought plane ticket to come up here and spend time, and then he would go back to South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
But then as we kept talking and that kind of thing, the time just kept, bumping, where he was like, no, I can't wait till July. I'm going to come in June. And then it was like, no, I can't wait till then. I'm going to come then, and so he ended up coming and surprising Nevaeh for her birthday
Aww.
that year. And so, we were FaceTiming and talking and that kind of thing. And so it just morphed into I want to come for her birthday party. And
that's sweet.
Yeah. And he just knew then that he was like, I want to build this life with you. And so he actually, instead of just coming to visit, he actually moved everything he had. In his
you can't get a guy to drive from Georgia. She gets to move his whole place down
there. The pressure. Did you feel pressure? I would not want somebody to move here for me. That makes me like.
You can even ask Nevaeh because he was like, "Don't tell Nevaeh. I want this to be a surprise for her," and that kind of thing. And so I will never forget. It was April 30th of last year, and he was like, "I'm gonna do this," and I'm like, "There's no way. There's absolutely no way. It's not gonna happen." And so I woke up at like 8:00 in the morning to a message saying good morning and that kind of thing. And so I messaged back, and he's like, "I'm already 4 hours into the trip," and I was like, "What?"
I didn't even tell you, warn you.
No. So it went instant cleaning mode,
yes, exactly.
everything,
cleaning
you gotta get ready. The house is gotta look good, and there's no fur on the couches or anything. Yeah. So Nevaeh, she was like, "What is going on with mom? Like, she is going frantic. Like, what is?" Yeah. And so, so he showed up, and we celebrated Nevaeh's birthday party together that last year. And then he just stayed. There was just never a time where he was like, "Nope, I'm going back." He was like, "This is the life that I want." And so
you talk about pressure. How about
that's
that?
What I'm saying.
I'm here.
Did he stay in a hotel or did he get an apartment or?
No. He just
moved right in.
He moved right in?
Yes. Yes.
What did he bring? Like 2 pairs of jeans? Like did he have a suitcase?
What does that matter?
I mean, like he really was planning. Like he just brought his suitcase.
Brought his dog.
I'm never leaving. You can bring your dog.
Yes, it's fine. Bring your dog. No. Yeah. So we didn't have a dog, but we ended up because he always wanted to have a husky. And so for Nevaeh's birthday, it was another this is crazy. We were looking on Facebook Marketplace, and there was husky puppies for sale down in Indy. And so we're like, and so that was one of Nevaeh's surprises for her birthday, that he wanted to get a husky and that kind of thing. And so I'm like, absolutely, because I love dogs.
Me too.
And so when we got Maverick, they told us that he was 3/4 husky and 1 part shepherd. Well, he is full-blown shepherd. There is one hair of husky in him, and it's in his tail, and that is it.
He's so cute, though.
Yes, but he is completely attached to me. So he is just all my dog. He's just, the sun sets in me. But then Christopher got a golden retriever for my birthday this past year.
See, that's what I'm talking about.
Another
birthday gift. Yes. Dogs. That's been my dream come true.
We always say that Max was telepathically talking to Christopher because he had got up to go to work and he had seen the post and contacted the lady, and it was just boom, that's how it happened. But their bond is unbelievable.
Wow.
So
So the relationship is going well. I mean, give us the fast forward version to now.
Fast forward, he was raised, by his mom. She was a single mom as well. His dad left, I think, when he was 5 and that kind of thing. So he was always raised by a single mom. So he gets that aspect of it. And then she had health issues about 10 years ago. So the last 10 years, he's only known his mom being sick. So he, not a lot of people understand my health issues, that there's days where I'm stuck in bed where my headaches are so bad that I cannot function. And so he totally understands that and gets that. And so he had a really strong relationship with his mom, but also his grandparents as well. But they were Jehovah's Witnesses. And so he always had questions about, what, it just doesn't really make sense, or it doesn't really add up and that kind of thing. And so there was always questions. And so fast forward, he really wasn't, going to church or really having a relationship with God. And then coming here has just really, changed, because his mom always encouraged him, hey, you need to have a relationship with God and that kind of thing. But again, for me, it was, mom and dad's got it for me. I don't have to pursue it. I'm okay, because if mom and dad's praying for me, then it's okay, And so, even seeing him build that relationship with God, and as it's our relationship continues to grow and that kind of thing. It's amazing because everything that I had prayed for and I thought I would never get, because I didn't do it by the book, and I, was
Yeah,
a
So still
failure
at this
to
point in your
God or
life,
whatever.
you're still thinking like, oh, I can't ever have what God wants
Yes.
because of
No,
mistakes.
because of the
Wow.
mistakes. Yeah, that I'll never be forgiven, and that kind of thing. So going through the Revelation series has been a huge eye opener to me because it's like, no, we can be, we can go through really bad things but God still loves us,
Right.
Right.
and there's always that chance to turn around,
Right.
that we're not just forever gone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think it's always the hardest question or the biggest question maybe that I got through, even with Sherry's health issues, right, was how do you delineate between these, like God's letting it happen because he wants us to turn around, or God's letting it happen because he wants us to learn, or God's, or it's just happening and God's not
because.
involved in it at all, And so going through the book, when we go through the book of Revelations, and essentially we said like judgment or things, happen sometimes to wake us up, And so I think what you're sharing is it's not necessarily that God's punishing you or they want you to feel guilty. He's just saying, Dee, what will it take to get your attention, maybe, and what will it get for you to see me for what it really is? Because I think you probably, in my opinion, come from a harder spot than most, being that if you grew up in a highly religious home,
Yeah.
I think it's difficult for people to see the true Jesus. Like they preach Jesus, but it's really not. It's
Jesus,
more of,
yeah.
it's the work,
Yeah.
it's the law, it's follow the rules, and then you're going to be okay. And
It's not
then
his unconditional love.
no, and I think that's
Right.
really difficult then when somebody tells you, oh, like you should get to know Jesus and have a relationship, and then all they can hear is, well, what I'm supposed to be is good.
Right, because it's
Yeah.
been ingrained since
Right.
Yeah.
birth.
Right. So it's
Yeah.
hard. Then
yeah.
anything that happens in your life tends to be I didn't follow a rule. Here's a consequence. I didn't follow a rule.
Right.
Here's a consequence. And it's hard to put that together with a relational God, right? And and hard to make that fit together. So
Yeah.
for you, it's been a big shift, right? And because today, I mean, would you say from your faith standpoint that you're as good as it's been in a long time?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because, like you said, growing up, you know that when you're going through, especially a super strict, faith, walk or whatever you want to call it, that, it, you can't ever do enough good,
Right.
and it's like, how, you know that you're not going to ever be good enough, so it's like, you get to a
terrible.
place where you're like, why even try?
Right.
Because I'm never going to ever be good enough, and so coming to a place and knowing that God loves you no matter what, and that things in life are not happening just because he hates you,
Right.
they're for all kind of different reasons,
Yeah. So think about this, because I always think this is an interesting question for people as they go through their journey and you get to this side of it, and then it's hard to think back, through all of the things that you've been through and all the stuff that you've went through. But if you could go back to your younger self, right? If you could go back to your younger days, would you give yourself any advice now after being through all of these things?
I
Would
love
you go-
these questions.
Huh?
I love these questions.
Yeah, like would you go back to your younger self and would you say anything? Like would you give yourself any advice moving forward after? Because you've been through, from a life
Yeah.
experience standpoint,
a lot.
I mean,
A
you've
lot.
been through a lot,
Yeah.
and if you could go back, because I always think about that in myself. If I could go back and tell my younger self, hey, think about these things in life, or try not to go down that road or keep going down that road,
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe that's not.
Yeah, I would say for myself, I would have told myself, keep going down that road. Because if I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a
Yes.
reason.
Mhm.
Everything, the good, the
Yep.
bad, the ugly. And if it wasn't for all of those things happening and the things that are going to come, because I know there's going to be, I'm going to have
Right.
mountains and valleys,
Right.
But if it wasn't for those things, that I wouldn't be where I am today. And
Yeah.
I wouldn't be having the relationship that I have with God today. It took all of those things, and like I've even said, praying for not only for myself, wanting a man in my life to not only have a relationship with God, but to help, walk side by side with me and have that relationship with God. I wanted that for Nevaeh as well. And, it took all of those things to be able to give me Christopher, because how else would I have met him being 700 plus miles away, And so.
And not being sick.
Yeah, not being sick, So it took all of those things, for God's big picture.
Right.
Yeah.
And for me, I only saw just the small. So I'm like, wow, God really hates me. Like,
Yeah, I know.
Wow, I should have not done that. But yeah.
And your relationship with Christopher now, so for him, faith was something new. Is that fair to say?
I would say so, yes.
So he comes, you guys meet, faith was something new to him. How has that went with you two together? Because again, devil's advocate, this is what everybody would be standing at the distance saying. Hey, Dee, you tried it one other time with somebody who wasn't a believer. You went down that road another time. What's been different because again, people put these, it's got to be a certain way, right? It can only be a certain way, and it never works if it's outside of the box, type of a thing. So as you look at it, because I know that there are people in relationships today, most of the time like this.
Yes.
The woman's here, she's going down the road, her faith is growing, and she meets a man who isn't. And there's anybody looking from the outside be like, run, because you're going to get hurt. And again, in your first situation you did, but this one's been different. What's been different? And
God's been different. Yeah. And, bringing us together through hardships, because not only have I gone through a lot, Christopher's gone through a lot as well. And, his mom was always telling him, and talking to him about God, but he, like myself, was really resistant of it, you know. And the older that you get, the more that you see God in so many things. And so, when he came up here and, we started coming, to church and that kind of thing, it was a huge, kind of like, this is what I want. Not only, because my mom had been wanting this for me, and, that kind of thing. It's now, this is the life that I want. And not only that I want, but I want for Nevaeh and then for his kids as well. And so, wanting that change and that kind of thing. So
if you could give some advice to couples, like what have been some things that have helped you guys grow in that again? Because again, as you're growing together in love, what you're praying for is you're also growing together in love for Christ.
Yeah.
Are there things that you guys have had to talk through again, from the faith journey, or is it just that you're both experiencing it together as you go down the road?
I think it's just experiencing it together because we, of, like I said, the resistance that I had being in a super strict, and then the resistance he had from not being in super strict. It was like, his grandparents were Jehovah's Witness, and then his mom, I believe, was Methodist or something like that. But, it wasn't, as strict as mine was, where it was just like, it was shoved down my throat, but there was still that resistance that he had, the resistance that I had. And so coming together and finding it together and finding our relationship with God together, and we communicate about everything, and, all of the, well, what ifs, what if we would have, God would have taken us this direction or that direction or whatever. But again, at the end of the day, everything happens for a reason.
Right.
So communication has been a big part of it. So you guys talking about, again, your journey, your struggles, the things that are going together. So communication between both of you has been really good.
And I'd say openness, because I mean, you could see that he was wanting a relationship with God.
Yes.
Not like that he was completely dismissive and, like completely away from God. I mean, you saw that it could be a potential to grow together.
Absolutely. And he has questions. I even have questions, still about, what about, God, what about, and we'll have questions, especially after church, about like, well, what is hell? What is heaven? What does that look like? Are we on the right path? Are we on the right path together, and are we on the right path for our kids? Are we doing that? And instead of it being how it was for me being younger and it just being crammed down my throat, this is how it is. And, you have to follow A, B, and C. It's like, okay, we can look at it together, and we don't have to have it figured out all at once.
Right.
You
It can
know?
be a continual conversation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, I think
Yes.
that's what's good is when people continue to have the conversation. Again, do it with the person you love. You know, I've always said it's important for us in relationship, you know, to share also in our faith relationship and be able to say, like, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I'm feeling, this is where I'm questioning, right? Like, these are the things that I don't think make any sense, because I do think it brings you closer together.
Yeah.
It does.
Right.
Yeah,
And you guys are
absolutely.
showing, you know,
Absolutely.
what that looks like and how God can work in those ways, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, okay, we're at an hour.
Okay. Question
So,
time.
Question time.
Question
So,
time.
Okay.
doesn't an hour go fast?
It does.
Oh, so
That's
fast.
gonna be longer. We should have brought snacks.
So fast. All right. Oh my gosh, this fly, I've been watching it for a while now,
It
but
was crawling on my microphone. I about put my mouth up and ate it here
I
just a
know
little
it
bit
was
ago.
like crawling on your shirt, and I could see it. And I thought it was all I was staring at was this fly. All right, question number 1 is from Alex Pope, and she wants to know, what is your favorite holiday and how do you celebrate it?
Oh, I am Christmas. I
yes.
love Christmas. And I
hate
celebrate it by
Christmas.
going to Hobby Lobby.
Hobby Lobby's just the best. I need to go there, actually.
Yes.
So are
Happy
you a
love.
huge gift giver?
Yes, I love giving gifts. I absolutely love
Is that your love
That's
language?
what I was about to ask.
Yes, yeah, that and quality time.
Okay.
Yeah, words of affirmation, the quality time, and gifts. Yes,
Okay.
are my love language. So, yeah. So when it comes to Christmas, and I absolutely love it because it's the best gift. Jesus is our best gift.
I know that part of Christmas.
Right,
But the
that's-
rest
yes.
of Christmas,
Just
decorating.
the feeling. Just the feeling of
The
Christmas.
twinkle lights and just
Yes.
the warm and cozy.
Yes. And then the day after,
Twinkle
it's like
lights make
weird.
me want to have a seizure.
Yeah.
Why?
I just can't.
Oh,
I
are
already
you?
told you part of the problem. Like, I read that book of that guy over in China.
Yes.
Remember?
No.
You do.
So I read this book of this guy who
Okay.
got put in prison for religious crimes in China. Goes over there and you know what he's forced to do?
Yeah, look at those lights.
No, make Christmas lights
Oh, yeah.
for stupid Americans to buy for $2.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's
and
right.
this,
I
through
forgot
this
about
whole
this.
time, he's tortured making Christmas lights and gets
gosh.
electrocuted and has
Oh,
holes in his
no.
Okay, well,
body.
that has a different
So every
meaning.
time we used to go to the thing, I'm like, hey, Sherry, are you getting Christmas lights again and torturing all the Chinese people
Oh my
that are in
gosh.
prison for their faith? Do you really want to get
gosh.
Christmas lights?
So did
Not
you?
know that.
No. Well,
You didn't have Christmas lights at all?
here's the deal. So Sherry would buy
American
lights
made.
she would buy lights every single year, and she would be like, I need you to put the lights up. I'm like, I'm not putting them up. To the point where, like, after Sherry passed, we probably have 4 totes of Christmas lights.
Wow.
4
I mean,
totes
they
of
do
them.
go out. I
They
just
do.
bought some.
Oh no, they'd never been open.
They've never been open?
No, I didn't put them on. She just kept buying them, and she couldn't find them
Oh
again, so
my
she bought
gosh.
more of them.
Yeah, because after Christmas, they're hard to find.
They are.
I just ordered some online. I ordered
see,
2
that's-
boxes.
Yeah, see, that's the problem.
You should have went to Mike.
I
now
did-
you know.
I'm mad because I literally just bought it yesterday.
Christmas lights?
Yes, I bought 2 cases yesterday
Okay.
in my
That's
Walmart order.
funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, next question from Kaylin Griffith. What is your favorite thing about Life Church?
Ooh, there's so many. I would say worship. I
Mm.
absolutely love worship. When I became a campus pastor and through the whole COVID thing, we couldn't,
Yes.
come through and that kind of thing. I absolutely loved online because at least I could still feel like I was here, and especially with going through all my sickness and that kind of thing, I still felt like I could connect and that kind of thing. But then when I was able to come back, I was like, whoa, the atmosphere here is just dynamically different than it is online. And even though online is amazing and I love it so much, it hits different when
Yeah.
you are worshiping
With a bunch of
and
believers,
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely love it.
Well, and I think it's, again, back to what we said from the beginning. Online, for our online community, it has a place. And people
Absolutely.
and again, people are
Absolutely.
being reached and God's doing amazing things. And then there's times where being in person is good. And I think it's seasonal. Right? I think
absolutely.
for different people, it's
Yeah.
seasonal. And the
Absolutely.
times that they need to be with people, and there's times where they can't be with people, and, it provides both of those,
Right.
atmospheres.
You're
So-
a great example of that because,
Yeah.
like, it kept
Yeah.
you still in in the church.
Yeah,
And
and
you didn't-
network and that kind of thing without,
Exactly.
being taken away again.
Right.
Yeah, because it was like you guys opened up that second service, and I was like, oh, hey, I can get back in a relationship with God. And then it was like, I was like, I felt like God was punishing me because I was trying to get back into good graces. And so all these bad things were happening. So that's how I viewed it at first, instead of, God trying to really show me, no, this is the path that I have for you. Let me show you how much I love you as I take you through these valleys.
Right.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But I absolutely love how God speaks through you, because growing up, it was so rigid that it never felt like God was actually speaking to you. It was so rigid. So, when God's speaking to you and it comes out in the congregation and you say something that God's been talking to me about, and I just keep like, no, I got this down here, God. Just back off. I got this. And then when you say something, I'm like, oh, okay.
Makes
all right.
sense.
Yeah. It is it's funny how God uses people as confirmation.
Yes.
Yeah.
You've been having these
Keep you on
things, and
track.
the next thing you hear a podcast, or you listen to a pastor, or you talk to a friend, and you're
Right.
like, are you reading my thoughts?
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
something's going on.
Something's
where-
going on.
You stalking me?
Yes.
What's going on here? What's going on here? Okay, I have a question.
Okay.
When was your first day back, like in service?
Oh, goodness.
Oh, I would have thought
You
you
would
would have had
expect
that
her to
day.
remember
I know.
that?
Yes.
I would not.
I would have thought that would have been like a monumental day.
Wow. I couldn't remember that.
Okay, was
No.
it 2021?
So, yes, it would have been back in 2021.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, because we, I want to say it was actually after Sherry passed away, because we came to that rocked me, because, Sherry was always there for me back at youth and that kind of thing. She was just always that welcoming face, because back prior, it was just so rigid with church that, you could never do anything good enough, And so when I came originally to life, one of the people that stood out the most was Sherry, because she was just so welcoming, so loving, and she just took you right in. You the same, Jennifer, Eller, Hillary when she was here. And so those were some big, people in my life. And so when I had came back in March of 2018, she was doing the Drake Gets t-shirt thing. And so time had went past, and I hadn't talked to you guys in forever. And then I seen her, and it was just everything just came right back, know.
Those are
and,
the best
Yeah,
relationships.
absolutely. Yeah. And so when I found out, that Sherry was sick and then that she had passed away, it just rocked me, because I was like, wow, that's not supposed to happen. That is not supposed to happen. And so, after that happened is when I was like, and so both me and Christopher was like, we're going to start going to church. And we had came, and it was just like, wow, that's so much different than watching, in the living room or in the bedroom or whatever, you know, because there was those Sunday mornings where like, oh yeah, we'll watch in the living room. And it's like, no, I am so tired. We're watching in bed, So it's like, God still loves me if I'm still in my jammies. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that was a really big turning point to see, wow, how much God can really speak to you inside of the church. Yeah.
Good. So end us up, Jenny, with the number.
Yep.
So how do people get involved? And then we'll, close it out.
Okay, sounds good. So on the roundtable, what we do is we send out a question every single week. And this is how we got the questions for you this week. Okay. And we hope that when we send them out that you respond, because we want to have a communication with you. We want to build a relationship. We want your thoughts with feedback. We want to have you be a part and just engaged in what we're doing. So text us with your questions, comments, concerns. If you want to be a guest, if
Put
you want
your
to be a
concerns
guest.
out.
If that fly was bothering you a lot, could you see the fly? That's what we need to ask. If they
They're
can
for
see the
sure
fly.
seeing the fly that was
You think
crawling
so?
on my ear earlier.
I hope they saw you almost try to eat it. That would have been great.
Yeah, as I was sitting here like this, staring at the fly.
Yeah.
Well, I think the big thing too that people need to remember is that part of watching this podcast, and or listening to it, part of your value system of doing that should be because I want to get to know people.
Yeah.
Right? It's not just, is their story, interesting, not interesting. It's be like, part of our responsibility is to get to know people.
Yeah.
And so the other way we do that is through questions. Care enough to ask, care enough to send the questions in, because again, it helps you get to know that person in a way that you can connect with them. Because I've always said this, if Sunday morning was only about coming in and doing the worship service and preaching, we would quit.
Yes.
Like I would not do it. It's too much work. It's if nobody connected with each other. So I've always said, like, if people can connect with people, I listen to them on the podcast. I now saw their face if you're watching, on our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So now I can go up and say, hey, I know you. Like that's
Absolutely.
a reason, another big reason for us doing that. So
they have been doing that.
right.
Too.
And that's what I'm saying. So being able to text questions again engages in the fact that I want to get to know people.
Yeah.
In that. So
Yeah.
send us questions,
Yeah.
comments, whatever you want to from there. So
And our number is 260-408-8383.
look at that.
Woo!
You keep getting
Right
better every
on the
week. You don't
money.
even have to go back there. And look.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So Dee, I would just say again, it's been awesome I had actually forgot about the whole youth part of it, but so it's been a long time, inside of a long journey. And I think, the thing that I'm the most proud of is you're an overcomer, right? And so you overcame, and again, this is a no fault. When I say these things, this is not the fault of your parents, but you grew up in a very religious system, which lots of people don't ever overcome.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, I want to make sure people are aware that there are a lot of people that live inside of that legalistic system all of their life, and or they completely walk away from faith because you can never uphold it.
Yeah.
Right.
And they can never do it. And so take that with your health issues and a religious background to some what feels like defeat after defeat.
Absolutely.
And you still overcame, and at the end of that, you're getting to see the fruits of being an overcomer. You're seeing God in a different way, and you're seeing His grace in a different way and through different people. And so I just want to say I'm really proud of you for doing that. And we as a church are excited to watch what God's going to continue to do in your life, and that we get to be a part of that journey. So thanks for coming on, and thanks for being a part of our podcast. And thanks everybody who has been listening and or who's watching. And don't forget, when Jenny puts out our little clip, make sure that you share it, make sure that you comment on it, because we want to continue to get our reach out there. So again, thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.